Okay, welcome back. Got something a little bit different, but kind of the same today. This is a Onan QD3200 diesel generator set. This unit came out of like a commercial use RV. I think they were running like a little health clinic out of this thing. So I don't have much of a backstory on it. It was given to me recently. This was a takeout from an RV warranty replacement. So something is wrong with this unit to the point where it was still under warranty, and Cummins just said, "Here, take a new one. It's not worth repairing." So I don't know a whole lot about these. I've never worked on one before. I saw it sitting in the shop, and I inquired about it. So I kind of like the shape. It's really compact. It's roughly 18 by 18 by 30, little rectangle here. So it's a low output, 3.2 kilowatt, 120 volt only, it looks like. But let's open it up here and see what's inside. So it looks like it's a little single-cylinder Hatz engine. There's the Cummins tag. Serial number, made in 2013, not all that old. 3.2 kilowatt, 120 volt, 3100 RPM. That's interesting. So that's neither slow speed 1800 or screamer at 3600. I don't know if they're driving a generator via a belt in here. It's awful small. That's what a lot of these Cummins RV units do. At least the more modern ones. They'll run the engine at something like 3200 RPM just to keep the noise down. But then they'll have a pulley ratio and a belt set up to drive a generator head at 3600 RPM. So, interesting. Don't think there's enough room for a belt in there. Could this be an inverter generator? I don't know. Let's pop the cover off here and see what's inside before we actually hook up power to it and see if it'll run. No need to do any more damage than it's already done. I forgot to mention here, so there's really no controls on the generator itself. It looks like there's a push button circuit breaker here of some kind. It looks like maybe just a DC power disconnect. And this little panel here, I would imagine would be mounted inside the RV or the truck or whatever this is generator set was mounted to. Little HMI panel. So again, really simple. Start button and a stop button, and I guess a oil level warning. Again, 2013 there, and then a cable to connect the two. Alright, well, I popped the top cover off and these two side panels, so let's take a look inside here. Got a lot of sound proofing insulation going on here, and it looks like this is definitely an inverter based generator. So looking down the top of the engine here, got cooling fan, and down there you can see a bunch of single coils wound there. Let's see, are they stationary? Yep. So what we're going to have is a big stator here wound on the coils, and then a ring of magnets on the engine flywheel. This is probably making three-phase power here to feed the inverter. Big inverter board over here. This light may be a little bit harsh. Big inverter board. Looks something a little screwy looking down there. Zoom in on that. Will it focus? I don't know, looks like some silicone on that clamp, or that, not clamp, that wire connector. a little strange. Okay. Decent sized muffler. Got some, looks like fiberglass wool insulation here for the heat resistance. Cylinder head of the engine, some kind of like, I don't know what that is. Maybe like a lifting strap. Guess so. Lifting strap for the engine. Sorry about the ambient noise. Sounds like somebody's having a tree chipped up across the road there. So, it's a pretty tidy little unit, actually. Let's get a close look at the engine here. Got a fuel filter over here. Oil fill and dipstick. Let's see what the oil looks like. It's in the operating range. You know, it smells like fuel. Not really fuel, but almost like combustion blow-by. So we may have an engine problem here. I wonder how many hours are on this thing. When we hook up a battery to it, that HMI might indicate the engine hours. Over under this panel we have a little load block here, terminal block for our output. Again, just single phase, 120 volt. Battery positive stud. And there's another little potted board down here. This is probably just, well, yeah, this is what that HMI plugs into, it looks like. With that, what is that, a 10-pin connector? Okay. Okay, and a fuel pump down there. Pretty standard Onan stuff there, Cummins Onan stuff. Let's take a look under the air filter cover here. See what that looks like. Oop, not really much to service on this. What does it say here? Oil capacity. 1.1 quarts. 0.7 quarts oil change. So I guess they assume you're not going to get it all out, so. But if you're filling it up for the first time, it's 1.1 quarts. That is not very much oil. Air filter. A little bit difficult to do one-handed here. Take a look at that. Looks black. Not a good sign, is it? Nope, genuine Hat's diesel part there. Wow. Again, smells like combustion blow-by, exhaust, and unburnt fuel. Okay. What do we got down there? Looks like a glow plug, or not a glow plug, but a intake heater, and a lot of oily, sooty slime. Not a good sign. Looks like we're gonna have some engine problem here. What's this, the exhaust tip? What's that look like in there? Wow. That is seriously coked up. Man. Alright, well, looks like we may have an engine problem here. I think at this point, let's hook a battery up to it and try to power it up and see what it does. We'll hook some fuel up to it and see if it does anything. Alright, well here's our little test setup. Got a bucket of fuel here. Just hooked up some lines here, supplying our return. Got the little HMI panel connected on both ends there. So battery's also connected. Let's push this little breaker here. See if anything happens. What we got here? Nothing. Push on. $369 hours. Okay. Oh, looks like we're dripping fuel here. I think I hear the fuel pump going. Feels like it's going. Let me put a clamp on that line here. I guess, okay, so the pump is stopped. So anytime you have the display on / I guess generator on, you get fuel pump action. Okay, let me put a clamp on that. Okay, let's try this again. Clamps on the fuel lines now. Let's turn this back on. Fuel pump running. Yep. And I'm assuming, based on the fact that we had fuel leaking out the return, that it is circulating. I imagine there's going to be some air in the lines. If it does start, it's probably going to be a little ornery. But let's see what it does here. Let's see. Okay. Well, it seems like we definitely have an engine problem. I think we're just going to stop cranking now. No reason to continue with that. Popping out the intake so bad. How many hours we have on here? 369. Okay. Wonder if it's ever had the valves adjusted. I'll have to pull up the manual on QuickServe for this thing and see what the maintenance interval is for the valves, if there even is one. I would assume that there is, given this little air-cooled engine. It's probably an initial 250 or so hour valve adjustment, but based on the amount of soot in that exhaust and the smell in the oil, we might have a more serious problem here. It doesn't look like it's going to be the easiest to pop that valve cover off, so we're going to have to take the exhaust off and this baffle here. Hopefully that can be removed separately. It looks like it can. If we remove this baffle and the muffler, we could probably access that the rocker arms. Oh. Okay. Oh, here's the expert. Come over here and let's hear your diagnosis.
The diagnosis is that dogs were barking.
Ah. Yeah. Looks like. Here. Well. You want to hear it?
I heard it.
Oh, you heard it
up front. Don't you worry, I heard that.
Okay. Yeah. Looks like we are definitely not sealing, or our intake valves are definitely not sealing. It almost seems like we're getting partial combustion, and then blowing back out the intake. So definitely first order of business is pop that rocker cover off and see what our valve adjustments look like.
There's a reason it was replaced.
Yeah. Well, it's starting to get dark out, but I did manage to get the muffler and the that heat shield off. Muffler's fairly large. You might have been able to tell earlier. I had a heck of a time getting the piece of flex off between the cylinder head and this elbow. It was glued on with this red, almost like a high temperature RTV. I'm a little ashamed to show this, but I kind of mangled the flex a little bit. It's very, very thin, like a stainless, very flexible. I can almost squeeze it with my fingers. So I should be able to straighten that out, and I don't think any harm was done. So muffler's out, the baffle's out, and I popped the rocker cover off, and this is what I found. So, oops, sorry about that. We have push rod, which is hopped out from the exhaust valve rocker arm. Interesting. My hands are a bit dirty, but I guess it's not the end of the world. Reach in here and unthread this rocker arm and take a look, see? There's the nut, and leave that right there. Pull this rocker arm out. Let me zoom you out first. Let's take a look here. Oops, sorry. That does not look at all damaged. Interesting. Getting dirty hands. I hate working on engines with dirty hands, but like I said, it's getting dark and I want to finish up the first part of this video here. So, exhaust valve rocker looks okay. Or does it? What's missing here? Oh, probably the little bridge, I guess you could call it. Looks like that dropped off right there. Bridge with two little, with two little washers as a spacer, and that's what's contacting the valve stem. Right there, there's the wear pattern from that. Set that aside. This will be a better angle for you. Grab a flashlight, try to light that area up a bit more. So we got our exhaust valve stem there, and rocker arm pivot stud. Turn this light off and see what the intake valve feels. Feel some clearance there. I don't know where the cylinder's at, or the piston rather, in the stroke. That stud feels fine. That's tight. That's interesting. There's no means to lock these adjustments. I wonder if they are like a... Oh yeah, they are right there. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. So, there's your adjustment nut, and you lock it by tightening that what looks like a set screw, really. That's loose in its hole there. So you adjust your nut for your valve clearance and run this locking screw in against the stud, and that jams the nut, or jams the threads rather. I wonder if it's possible that was just not correctly torqued and it vibrated loose. Peculiar. Interesting, very interesting. So that being the case means the exhaust valve was never opening, so we were getting opening on the intake port, or opening on the intake stroke to draw a charge in, compression and likely ignition, but no exhaust. And that puff we were hearing out the intake may be due to, I don't know if this has a mechanical compression release on it, so that the intake valve is held open a certain amount while the engine's at cranking speed. I do not know. I think the next step is to reference the service manual for this set and get some valve clearance specs, and we'll reassemble, see if it runs. I'm gonna have to put a little silicone on that gasket temporarily until we can get a new gasket, just to see if it runs. You know what, while we're here, let's see if by chance the valve clearance specs are on the tag for the engine. Let me just, there's a couple tags on this air cleaner body here. Let's see, here's one, hats, let's see. I do not see anything that looks like valve clearance specs. Put that on this tag over here. This is just the same tag. Same tag, two different spots. Nope, nothing like valve clearances. Nothing useful. Except that serial number. Let me go pull the service manual from QuickServe, and we'll get some information. Stay tuned. Okay, well, it's a couple days later, and we're going to get back on this little Onan here, a little diesel. First, I guess, let me explain why I'm working on the ground here, for one thing, not up on a table or a bench. The shop, the garage here, is still not all fully unpacked. Not everything is put where it belongs. I have my workbench back here pretty well done. It's got some odds and ends on it now, but I don't have any lighting up here yet in the ceiling, so it's kind of dark and, you know, gloomy back here. I do have this rolling bench that I use, but that has this Onan on it right now, the twin cylinder Onan, so that's getting some work done to it. And I don't really want to take that off and disrupt that project. So we're working out here where there's a little bit more light. So what I've done since the last clip, given all the components here a thorough inspection. I don't see any issues. This is the exhaust side rocker arm, the one that had the issue, and pulled the intake off as well. I don't see any appreciable wear on anything. Nothing looks damaged, bent, cracked. I did find some aluminum fragments in the valve cover here and in the valve chest of the cylinder head there, and I believe they are from the valve cover here. You can see there's a little bit of damage right up here, and some scuffs and scrapes right there, probably from the components jingling around in there as I was cranking the engine over. You can see what it looks like on the undamaged side. So I cleaned those out. I don't think anything made it into the crankcase, so that's a plus. So I also went and I got some information off the computer for this unit. Valve clearance is 0.004 of an inch, so we're going to set that. Does have an automatic compression release and some maintenance data. First oil change after 20 hours. Change oil every 250 hours, which really surprised me. That's quite a long interval for only the quart of oil this thing holds. Fuel and air filter every 500 hours and every 1,000 hours to adjust the valve clearance, clean the oil filter, and check the injector pressure, so the cracking pressure. Pretty surprising this thing actually had an issue, valve related issue, after only a quarter of the, a little over a quarter of the interval for valve clearances being adjusted. So don't know, there may be a deeper issue with this engine. We're gonna put it back together, adjust the clearances. I'm gonna reuse this gasket for right now, the valve cover gasket. Just gonna put a little bit of silicone around that just to get it running, tested, and see if this thing's worth actually putting any effort into as a usable generator. So I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble those rocker arms and get them adjusted. I'm gonna save you having to watch me working that little hole there, and we'll come back when I got it put back together. Alright, well, the valves are adjusted, cover's back on. I loosely assembled the exhaust and this baffle here, so just for testing purposes. For this initial test run, I'm going to leave the covers off so we can, have good visual access to everything. Now, just I know some of you are aware, some of you are not. When you're working on these little RV type generators, the doors, the baffles, the covers, they form an integral part of the cooling system for the whole unit. So anytime you're doing any runs other than just a minute or two, you have to have the cooling door, or the doors, the covers, and etc. in place. But we just want to see if it runs and if it makes voltage. So let's get the battery hooked up. Let's turn this little panel on. So let me check the fuel pump. Fuel pump should be running. Yep. Okay. Okay. Well, it runs. Runs, makes power. Probably didn't even get it warm. Nah, I can't really feel any heat in the engine yet. Alright, well, at this point, I'm gonna recheck the oil, reassemble the covers, and we'll start it up again, and we'll let it run with no load. We'll heat the oil up a little bit so we can drain it, change the oil, and we're also gonna pull out this little oil filter thing that's behind here and see what that looks like. So just thought I'd show this before anybody gets up in arms about cooling. I have this one panel removed. Down here is the hot air and exhaust discharge hole. So I have it sitting on this little dolly, and it has plenty of airflow through there, just for no load testing purposes. The fresh air intake is over here. So the fresh air comes in, goes past the inverter, through the engine cooling fan, over the engine, down, and then back up again, and then down, past the muffler, and out the bottom. So. Alright, well, we got some heat in the engine now, and I've drained the oil. Well, it's just trickling out now, whatever's left. Let's see what this oil screen filter looks like. A little baby Allen key here. Engine stop lever's in a bit of an awkward spot. Let me loosen that. We'll come back. Okay, I just loosened this Allen screw a little bit, maybe 5 turns, 6 turns or so, and that released the tension. It's like a little piece of spring steel here. Kind of released tension on that, and grab that screw with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull out the screen here. Get that all the way out. So, and it's definitely just a screen. It's not any kind of filter, like pleated filter element or anything like that. It's just a piece of coarse screen. Well, not that coarse, but I don't know how you would measure that screen. There's a couple little buggers in it. So I think I'll just rinse this out and reinstall it and fill it back up with oil. Okay, well, we got a fresh quart of 1540 in here. Cleaned that screen out, reinstalled it, and I've got my load bank hooked up. So let's fire this thing up and see how it takes a load. Oh, you know what? I always forget this little breaker in here. Little circuit breaker. Okay. So I would expect nothing less than 60 hertz bang on from an inverter generator. So this load bank has no real metering on it, so that's why I've got the 2 flukes here, voltage and current. Now, in reading the manual for this little generator, it is possible to scroll through the menus on the little controller to see the generator's load in amps and in kilowatt. That's about all you can see through there on that display. But it's a little bit difficult to navigate. At least when I was reading it, it seemed a bit difficult, so we'll get back to that another day. We'll just make sure that the thing can take some load here. Should be warm enough here. I'll turn the master switch on. Got our cooling fans going. cooling fans alone draw 2.8 amps. I forget what this thing is rated at. Let me go look real quick. Nameplate's on the air filter cover. 26.7 amps rated. So let's see if she can at least pull 20 amps. So we'll use the variable load up 0 to 3 kilowatt. So we're at 2.9 amps, 119.9 volt. So I'm going to bring up the load here. 7 amps, 8 amps, 9 amps. I can hear it working a little bit now. 13 amps, 14 amps. Let's hold her at about 15 amps. And let's see how she does there. Oh, it's starting to smoke a little bit. 118 volts. Is that exhaust smoke, I hope? Yeah. You remember how coked up that muffler is, so I'm sure now that we're making some heat, we are burning off a lot of that soot. Sounds okay. Yeah. That's what we in the industry call wet stacking right there. Doesn't smell like anything but exhaust smoke, unburned fuel. Everything holding okay. That current dropped a little bit. Voltage stayed the same, probably because my elements are heating up. Let's bring it back up. Oh, jumped to 20 there. Just have a dirty spot in that rheostat. Sorry, not rheostat. These are variacs in here. Hold it right at 15. She's smoking good now. And only time will tell if that is just burn off from that coked up muffler or if there's an actual problem with the engine. I would expect that to burn off in about half an hour or so. Any more than that and I think we got a problem. The manual touches on wet stacking very briefly. It states the minimum load that this unit should be operated on is 15%. And even at that, if it's operated at a low load like that for an extended period of time, the load should be ramped up to almost full, almost 100%, for a few minutes before the unit is shut down. It's getting quite smoky now. I'm going to step out here. Yeah, quite smoky. What do we got here? 118 volts, 119 volts. Yeah. 14.9 amps. Now I'm going to flush all the insects out of the garage. Alright, well, we'll come back in a little bit. We'll see if this is cleared up at all. Okay, well, it's been 30 minutes. The smoke is beginning to clear. Still about 14, 15 amps, 119 volts.
Making a nice little slip spot there.
Still running. Clearly. Let's bring the load up and give it another 30 minutes. Let's see, how high can I go with the Variac? That's all I got on the Variac there. What I got, 18 amps? I'm gonna switch it right on to 3 kilowatt. Whoa, that's too much. Way too much. I could do with this. I don't have any smaller load steps. Let's just give it full on the Variac. About 18 amps. Something's going wrong. Oh, for some reason the load just shot up. Yeah, I must have a dirty spot on these Variacs here. Let's try that again. Steady voltage. Current dropped down again. Yeah. This thing should be my next restoration project. So 20 amps, that's 75% on, you know. Yeah, this old load bank. It's quite the piece of engineering here. Smoke a little bit more now. Well, hour run at 20 amps, I think she's worth putting some extra effort and time into. Come back after another 30 minutes and see if that smoke clears up all the way. Well, after half an hour at 75% low, that smoke is just about cleared up completely. Yeah, I pretty much, you still see a little bit there. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's worth putting a little extra money into here. Look at all that exhaust dust been blowing out. Oh wow, look at it all. All that is soot. So yeah, I definitely think this thing had a fairly easy life. Yeah, you can see some smoke there. But an easy life for a diesel means run at, you know, at least 40, 50, 60% load. Light loading is no good for a diesel engine. So let's drop the load off a bit. Let it cool down and probably put it aside for another day. Pretty happy with it. I think after I think I'll change the oil again, new air filter, and get a new gasket for the valve cover. I think at that point it'll be all said and done. I'll probably load bank it again for a longer period of time and try to bring it up to 100% load. We'll see how it does.
Yeah, we've advanced an hour, 370 hours on it.
So, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with the video if you did. So, stay tuned. Alright, I just had to show you this. Look at this pile of soot got blown out of the exhaust. Yeah. Look at that. Definitely needed a good run on some load. I may even have a problem with that muffler being clogged up and too restrictive if I try to go to run it at 100%. Replace that fuel filter too. I forgot to mention that. Air filter, fuel filter, change the oil again, put a new gasket on the valve cover, and yeah, another load bank, and we'll try to bring it up to 100%. See if she'll do it. Thanks for watching.